The problem is judges don't feel bound by the rule of law, at least judges appointed by President Biden. If indeed they were appointed by President Biden, we don't really know who was nominating some of these late judges.
Sure.
And I don't know that I want impeachment to be a holstered weapon that is brought out too quickly. What do you think on that, Alex Marlow?
Yeah, I'm very cautious about recommending any sort of radical things like that. That I think you've got to have the goods when you're doing these things. And this is something that I recommend consistently throughout the book, that we cannot break the law ourselves when we're opposing these people. And we have to reform the law, and we have to be patient in a lot of ways. And I cite a few examples of where we've been prudent and we've been patient with trying to bring about change. We've been successful, in particular with the Supreme Court, where it was a very radical court for decades. And we were able to slowly, methodically, through winning elections with great appointments, to make it a conservative court again. We do need to take that approach. I don't think we can build Rome in a day here, where we can just impeach all the bad judges and throw them out. Really, the solution is to just electing the best leaders who appoint the best judges. And when there's a judge race in your area, if you're voting for judges, that you have to actually pay attention to those and pick the best ones. That really is the solution. And unfortunately, you got to be patient to do that. But it is something that strikes me as illogical for sure, and probably illegal, that we now have to get essentially we have to avoid the veto of 600 odd judges for President Trump to have an executive order. That strikes me as completely outside of the bounds of the law, the way I've come to understand it. And it would be highly illogical if that's the policy. And yet that is what we've been witnessing the last 7 months.
It is completely outside of the law. And for the benefit of the audience, I will tell you, two-thirds of our district court judges have been appointed by President Biden or Obama, the rest by Presidents George W. Bush and President Trump. And that number will rise over President Trump's second term, but it's still, thank goodness for the Supreme Court. And I don't even mind liberal circuits, because that creates circuit splits, which create the opportunity for the Supreme Court to come in and settle law.